Fire for your mind. Culture clinician.
Watch Rodney Rogers go from rags to riches in this thought-provoking show as we explore the 90s. From a mental perspective, toughness personified, and Gen X basketball with ECU Hall of Fame, Lester Lyons.
Wheelchair.
The first year, we stayed in the room with the blinds closed.
You know, I can't take care of my wife like I want to. Can't hold her in my arms. I can't, hold her hand and stuff like that. And sometimes it make you feel less than a man.
We was at the point where we both contemplated suicide.
Fire for your mind. Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male. Fire for your mind. Culture clinician.
Aside to become the culture clinician, the story and the war cry behind the culture clinician was similar to some of the struggles and the things that I have been through as a man. And some of you men are still going through that right now. There's a philosophical term called an existentialist crisis. Basically what that means is that you begin to ask yourself the question of why am I existing? What is the purpose of my existence? And I think that's the story of a lot of men that have not been more or less raised or under the tutelage of masculine men. One of the greatest indictments, guys, about the manosphere is that people assert and assume that the manosphere preaches misogyny and hate. But the manosphere is not responsible and was created a silo as the front to women or black women. But the manosphere was responsible for the pain and suffering that many black men were going through and continue to go through as we speak now. Once again, gentlemen, we are going through an existential crisis. Our country is in trouble. Some of you are in trouble mentally, physically, and emotionally. And you're not ready to move to higher ground until you get the requisite help that's going to help you become the better version of yourself.
Real men put the strap down and we can toss it. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician.
All right. There it is. All right. Now hit it for me.
And it ain't culture. 7 in hell is what they taught you. We'll put them, and you can back up in young dose. Kosher. Clinician.
All right, stop that. All I want you to say is if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Say that first, okay?
All right.
All right, you ready?
Start over?
Yeah, start it.
No. Okay, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher, and...
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
Okay.
Heaven and hell is what they taught you.
Okay, perfect. Do that again, but give me a little attitude. If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
And action.
Young heads picking back up in young dolphin. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician. That was cool.
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture. Heaven and hell is what they taught you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up in young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
been there, locked up inside my head, broken from fear, illusions, disappointment, and hopelessness. Who heard me in my silence, where being a man means nothing? Despair, I've been there too. Desperately seeking answers for the questions associated with manhood. Hills and valleys, too bleak to compare. Stress, suffering in a utility silo. No comfort, no security, no freedom, no justice. Just do it for others. Challenges. Who will help me break the challenges? Lost in the vortex of darkness, hopelessness, fear, and abandonment. I've been there too. I've been there too. Take the next step to your destiny. Join me in this fight. Walk forward. Deep breaths. Head held high, men. Come join me, men, in the winds of time. Stories, hopes, visions, purified in the fire. I'm not a superhero. And I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm here to help you. Join me, men, in this fight. Break the chains of your mind. Let's do it now. For now is all we have. Fire. The kosher clinician. All right, guys. I don't know if you guys can hear me. If y'all can hear me, hit one. If you can hear me, hit one. If you can hear me, guys, hit one. If you can hear me loud and clear. We're gonna get into it, guys. I want to, send a special shout out to the few that are watching, the three that are in. If y'all can hear me, hit one. Hit one if you can hear me. I don't know why this camera's doing this, guys. Okay, good. Y'all can hear me, all right. And so we're going to get into it, guys, in a minute. We're going to get deep into it in 1 minute. But before we start, as you guys know, I've been doing a couple of shows talking about Generation X, Generation Basketball, the Mamba mindset of a lot of black men back in the past, back in the 90s. And this show is more or less a reflection of what I saw as a teenager growing up in the 90s compared to now. I don't know if you guys knew about Rodney Rogers. But Rodney Rogers, guys, Rodney Rogers was a basketball player from the 90s, and he went from rags to riches. And if you guys know anything about basketball, I played ball. I played high school ball, had a chance to play college ball. And we talk about the differences of Gen X basketball, but also the mental stress and the mental struggles of people like Rodney Rogers. Shout out to my man, Barry Hamilton, for that $5 super sticker. Thank you, Brother Barry. I appreciate it. As he's the number one sponsor of the stream. But Rodney Rogers went from rags to riches, growing up in the Durham projects, and also being considered Bull Durham, one of the best basketball players in the state at the time. And so we're going to delve into the struggles of people like men like Rodney Rogers, but also, guys, we're going to delve into how men of that generation had a different mindset. Some will call it the Mamba mindset like Kobe Bryant. Some will call it the Mamba mindset like Kobe Bryant. And one could argue that Rodney Rogers had that mindset. So we're going to get into it, guys, and thank you to the three that are watching. But what do you guys remember about the 90s, basketball in the 90s, but also the resilience that Gen X players had back in the 90s compared to now? And this is dear to my heart concerning Rodney Rogers. Because Rodney Rogers, once again, grew up in the Tar Heel state. He was heavily recruited. And when him and I were coming out of high school, he was one of the best players in the country. They call him T-Top. And you know, you don't see that anymore. You don't see the talent and tenacity of ball players like Rodney Rogers anymore. So we're gonna get into it, guys. And thank you guys for the six that are watching. And I appreciate Brother Barry Hamilton for that $5 super chat. Let's get into it. As we talk about Rodney Rogers and his momentous decline from being one of the top basketball players in the country. And we're going to talk about, guys, how poverty and all those things play a role in the shaping of a child, but also the psyche. As you guys know, I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I'm matriculated at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I studied at North Carolina Central, where I got my bachelor's, and I got my background in law enforcement. And so if you know anything about me, the shows that I use and curate is about male empowerment. It's to help men understand how trauma, but also the impact of fatherhood, but also how many times men's voices not being heard. My channel primarily is for male empowerment, meaning there are times I might inculcate theological principles to add clarity to the conversation. But for the sake of the argument, we're going to talk about men like Rodney Rogers and how women of Gen X of that time were not only totally different, but also how a colleague of mine, he was from the 90s, we played high school ball together, and he's now in the ECU Hall of Fame. So guys, let's get into it. And I'm going to run this clip again, and then we're going to get into it.
Watch Rodney Rogers go from rags to riches in this thought-provoking show as we explore the 90s. From a mental perspective, toughness personified, and Gen X basketball with ECU Hall of Fame, Lester Lyons.
In a wheelchair.
The first year, we stayed in the room with the blinds closed.
You know, I can't take care of my wife like I want to. Can't hold her in my arms. I can't, hold her hand and stuff like that. And sometimes it make you feel less than a man.
We was at the point where we both contemplated suicide.
Now think about Rodney Rogers' girlfriend, guys, back of that generation. She was that man's ride or die, and she even contemplated suicide. You're not going to find that kind of loyalty in this generation. A woman that loved her man so much that not only did she stand by when he broke his neck, but she's still standing by. And like I said, guys,
it's the Tar Heels.
I remember Rodney Rogers when I was in high school because I played high school basketball. And I would argue, guys, that the 90s produced some of the best basketball players in the NBA era, but also in the collegiate era. As you guys know, Michael Jordan came from North Carolina. He went to USC Chapel Hill. He went to my alma mater. And some of the greatest players of the ACC came from the state of North Carolina. And so Rodney Rogers went from rags to riches. He broke his neck. He talked about the struggles of not having his father. He talks about growing up in Durham, growing up in the hood. I forgot the name of that projects in Durham. But he talks about all of that. And a lot of you men have been through and seen the struggles of Rodney Rogers.
Clifford Rozier building a 10-point lead at home over Wake Forest in the first of three tonight on ESPN. Wake Forest will need Rodney Rogers to get going in the second half to get back in this ball game. As a freshman, Rogers leading the team in scoring, rebounding, and field goal percentage.
Now, Rodney Rogers, guy, was a sixth man of the year. We're going to get into his upbringing, his background, how profound he was back in the 90s, and what eventually happened to him, where he broke his neck and lost his grace.
He's a guy blessed with tremendous basketball skills, but already he's had to overcome more tragedy and adversity and hard knocks in his short life than anyone should ever have to deal with. As John Saunders reports, the road to stardom for Rogers has been long and winding indeed.
The road from Durham to Winston-Salem, North Carolina is only 79 miles. But for Wake Forest, Rodney Rogers...
If some of you don't know about North Carolina basketball, I also was recruited partially by Clarence Big House Gaines. Clarence Big House Gaines at the time was one of the best basketball coaches in the state of North Carolina, but also all-time winning basketball coaches. So I was recruited by Clarence Big House Gaines back in the day. I was recruited by Clarence Big House Gaines. And also I was recruited by the University of Eastern Kentucky. I was recruited by the University of East Kentucky to play basketball with them as well. But sadly, a lot of times growing up in the 90s, guys, we just didn't have the support. We didn't have the media. We didn't have the social media. We didn't have anything. We just had to figure it out. And if you grew up like I did back in the 90s, a lot of times coaches didn't promote you. But Rodney Rogers overcame homelessness, not homelessness, but growing up in the hood, his father being incarcerated, his brother being incarcerated, I believe, his mother being a single mother struggling, and became an elite athlete. And then he lost all of that when he broke his neck due to paralyzation. And let me tell you something, guys. Sometimes your wives can be an asset in your life. Women by nature are empaths. Sometimes your wife, when she tells you not to do something, or your wife can feel things, it's wise to listen to your wife. But sometimes, men, we're not careful. We will let our egos get in the way and hindering us from hearing the greater story and the bigger conversation.
Rogers, the road from home to college has at times seemed much farther.
From the time I was in the 2nd grade when my father passed, I mean, it's
So his father passed when he was in the 2nd grade. So can you imagine the trauma of can you imagine of being in the 2nd grade? Your dad is gone. He didn't get the proper nurturing that he needed in his development as a man, but also having to navigate that growing up in one of the toughest hoods in Durham, North Carolina. I can't think of that hood in Durham. What is that place called? It's not, I can't even think of it. But it's in the projects. And he grew up in the project, Madugal Terrace. He grew up in Madugal Terrace in Durham. And Madugal Terrace routinely, and still is, actually one of the worst. Actually, let me show it to you guys. It's one of the worst hoods in North Carolina. And that's where Rodney Rogers grew up. So I'm going to show you guys something. Let me show you what Rodney Rogers grew up under, guys, real quick. And what he had to overcome to become great. But see, here's the thing about it. Everybody is not resilient. And everybody don't overcome it. But Rodney Rogers did. And so let me show y'all guys a clip of the hood that Rodney Rogers grew up in. And so having to internalize that and deal with the trauma of not having his dad, guys, was extremely frustrating and extremely problematic for Rodney Rogers. And you can see it here. Hold tight. This is where he grew up at. Hold tight.
We out here in the mat, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Fierce.
V3 got down from the mat.
And y'all forgive the language, guys. So I'm just trying to show y'all an example of what it's like for boys to grow up without fathers, growing up in poverty, and growing up in struggle, and also growing up in not having the proper guidance from their fathers. These are traumatic responses that can lead to some guys to having what's called personality disorders. Some men get personality disorders based on their traumatic experiences and the struggles that they went through or continue to go through.
Okay.
It's your boy Smoke. Shout out to your boy Future. Yeah, that yellow got down. Y'all, we in the mat with it. Y'all know.
Okay.
And guys, this is in North Carolina, and this is what Rodney Rogers grew up in. We're gonna play us a little bit of this. This is for fair use.
That's where everybody at.
Bro, let's go.
He locked in.
I'm just trying to get this footage and shit before I go.
Y'all know you.
He look familiar there.
This the nigga from.
Y'all just watching this
Hold on,
last night with Set. I was the one that asked him the question.
Oh, word.
That question was like, shit, why you ain't come back to the room?
Oh, why he ain't come back? Oh, yeah.
This is where Rodney Rogers grew up at, guys. And a lot of people that grew up in circumstances like Rodney Rogers, many times they will succumb to violence. They will succumb to the streets. They will succumb to hustling and many other nefarious things.
Damn, that was you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, bro. So growing up out here, bro, what is it like, man? You from here? You born and raised?
I'm from all over down. I ain't even gonna lie. I was born and carried in Bradtown.
Yeah.
I was raised in East Durham.
You said you was born where?
And carried.
Okay.
Come here, twin. So I was born and carried in Bradtown, raised in East Durham, and then the Mac is my shit.
Yeah.
was born in Blacktown.
Since I've been growing up out here, I've been getting shot at since I was 7.
Since you was 7?
7, behind some shit, you feel me?
Behind just being.
And as you guys see, guys, a lot of times there, as a therapist, we look at things that are called protective factors, risk factors, static factors, and also modifiable factors. We look at all those elements. But you see, pragmatically, how a lot of times people like this young man and many others, sometimes when they're not careful, turn to a life of crime. And so Rodney Rogers shouldn't have been as successful as he was, and we're going to get back to him in a minute. But he overcame in spite of. And what Rodney Rogers did, guys, is extremely rare.
Wrong place, wrong time type shit.
You know, it's my people, so I was in the right place, but just wrong time.
Yeah. So some shit could go down right now.
Shit.
Where's cops? Yeah, it's hella cops and shit.
Like, for like all these gun shit, boy, it be going down like every night.
Yeah.
Once again, guys, y'all forgive the language. This is just for educational purposes. I do not prove the language, but I'm just trying to, convey a message and let y'all see how poverty and homelessness and the lack of fathers in the home, economic issues, homelessness, poverty, they all play a role in the shaping of a child's psyche.
What you think got to happen for this shit to stop? Because I seen like last week, 5 people got shot in Durham and shit.
I'm gonna keep it high. It's like, it's to the point, cuz can't shit stop it, cuz. You feel me? They done lost some people, we done lost some people, cuz. This shit ain't.
Once again, this is where Rodney Rogers was at, guys.
And then like now growing up, motherfuckers don't even give a fuck about the kids, the women.
And so this is a different, guys, of the 90s when we grew up and played basketball, but also the 90s inner cities. Kids that grew up in the 90s in the inner cities was totally different back then. Most game bangers back in the 90s didn't hurt old folks and they didn't hurt people in general. This generation of kids, they don't have no respect for the elders and they don't respect the code. So Rodney Rogers and the generation I grew up in, some of the kids that game bang, like I never did that, but generation of that time, they did respect the elders, but this generation don't.
Grandma, all the old people, man, motherfuckers just shoot and make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
I keep my shit on because that's why I got the foot bag on. That's it.
Yeah, bro. It's vicious. Yeah, but you said niggas been sleeping on Durham though?
Yeah, cuz that's what I'm saying. Like, niggas from New York that came out here, niggas from Chicago that came out here, they all say, boy, they thought they gonna come out here, gonna be soft, boy. That shit goddamn really like Chicago, it's just small.
Yeah. Definitely, man.
You know, it's OTG, you know.
We be in Fuck Boy, I know the vibe. Lonely my brother, you know. A lot of double shit. Y'all niggas know the vibes. A lot of old side, you feel me?
That's what it is.
Yeah, like I was saying, goddamn.
You said since.
And once again, guys, forgive the language, but this is what happens when you don't have fathers, when you have poverty, when you don't have structure, when you don't have leadership, when you don't have order. Boys need the structure and the leadership of their fathers. But Rodney Rogers defined the odds. And so we're going to get back to Rodney, but this is the hood that he grew up in. I'm going to play a little bit more of this clip. And then I'm going to show you how powerful Rodney Rogers was. Rodney Rogers had what was called the Mamba mindset, like Kobe Bryant. We had that killer instinct. Our generation grew up when we had the killer instinct. But sadly, this generation now don't. They don't have the Mamba mindset like we did as young men growing up.
7 though, bro. What the fuck, bro?
Oh, yeah, so goddamn, I ain't gonna lie. It was behind some other shit, cuz.
Real quick. It's puffy. It's small, but we smoking there.
All right, so let me stop this real quick. Let's get back to Rodney Rogers. Hold tight.
Like from then on, it's always been hard.
And so now you guys are getting a snapshot and a picture of Rodney Rogers, what he went through, how he overcame the struggles that he overcame, even though his father died when he was a little boy.
You know, because especially for me, you know, all the other kids in school had a mother and a father to turn to. And I only just had my mom.
Then there's the housing project in which Rogers, his brothers and sisters.
And see, this concept, guys, called sublimation. This is MacDougall Terrace back in the 90s. This right here is this is McDougal Terrace now. Rodney Rogers grew up in that hood and became one of the best basketball players in the NBA. He won the six-man award for the Denver Nuggets. But he overcame the violence, the crime, and went on to be one of the best basketball players
a lot of my
in the ACC, but also in the NBA. He was nasty. Rodney Rogers was one of the best basketball players in the country, and also in the state when I was in high school.
friends and stuff, you know, started dealing with drugs or dropping out of school. And so I figured that, you know, the only way for me to get away from all this would to, like, try to get into sports or, you know, just do my schoolwork and stay around the house. So my mom wouldn't have to go through the things like she went through with my brother Stanley.
And but a bunch of drugs over there and a bunch of guys.
Now this is Rodney Rogers' brother. I used to work at Eastern Corrections. I used to work there, guys, back in the day. I worked at this place. I started my law enforcement career working in this prison. The same prison that had Rodney Rogers' brother. I worked here. Worked here for about 2 years.
See over there in the project where we stayed at, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he was saying in the paper, and about a bunch of drugs over there and a bunch of guys, you know what I'm saying, it's constant stay in trouble, like I did when I was coming up.
Me and my daughter would talk to him, and it still go back to like...
See, this goes back to what's called resiliency theory. Parents back then weren't trying to be friends with their parents, but this is Rodney Rogers' mother. Rodney Rogers was resilient in spite of. Everybody's not resilient in spite of. But Rodney Rogers was.
His brother went in prison. He looked at his life, and he looked at his older brother's life. And I guess he just made his own decision, because, you know, most parents will whoop or either punish, but I learned in life, you do more talking. You do a whole lot of talking.
And Rodney listened.
And that's different for some kids. Some kids you can talk to. Some kids, you have to do more. Some kids back then, they got spankings. But every child is different, and you have to deal with every child accordingly.
He never missed school at Hillside High. Then one day, his world collapsed.
If you don't know anything about Hillside High School in Durham, Hillside High School it's like a black HBCU high school. Hillside was one of the best high schools back in the day. And Rodney Rogers actually was part of it. They used to call him T-Top. Hold tight, let me show y'all something. This dude was bad. They call him the Bull Durham. Rodney Rogers was one of the nastiest players in the state coming out of high school. Let me show y'all something. Hold on. I'll show it to y'all in a minute. Hold tight.
His mother was nearly killed in an auto accident. One passenger in the car died. She remained in a coma for over 2 weeks and stayed in the hospital for 3 months. In stepped the Brooks family.
We were going on vacation one summer. His mother had been in an accident, and so he was more or less alone over where he stayed. So I invited him over to stay with us, while my son, while we went on vacation, because one of my sons didn't want to go. And so when we came back, and he told him he could stay as long as he wanted to. So he ended up staying with us about 2.5 years.
And with 2 teenage sons already, I didn't have a problem. Rodney fitted right in with my boys.
Rodney fit so well into the Brooks household, he didn't return home to the projects, even when his mother came home from the hospital. He remained with the Brooks until he went to college.
I didn't want to go back over, you know, because, you know, like you said, the atmosphere over there. But for me, you know, it'd have been difficult because I'd have wanted to go outside, you know, or try to see some of my friends. And who knows, people riding around shooting. A stray bullet could have caught me or anything.
It took Rodney 4
So once again, guys, Gen X kids were different. We were called latchkey kids. We had to figure it out on our own. That generation, we had to get it from the mud. Most cat kids from Gen X, we were just very reliant. We just didn't quit. We figured it out. And I'm Gen X. Gen X proud, Gen X strong. Not like some of the generations now that quit. I want to blame everybody. Gen X was built different. We had no other choice but to do it to get it from the mud.
Tries at the SAT to get the minimum score needed to attend an ACC school, but he made it using his family, especially his oldest brother Stacy, who is deaf, as inspiration.
I really want to do well, to try to make my family happy as well as myself. And if it comes out to a contract signing in the NBA, it's all fine and good. I can move my mom, get anything she wants. That's the only reason, it really.
And that's always been the burden of a lot of guys and a lot of men of that generation, having to take care of mama when they should have been taking care of themselves. There's nothing wrong with it. And so the difference between Rodney Rogers' mom, her situation, his father didn't abandon him. His father died. That's the difference. Rodney Rogers' father didn't abandon him. He died when he was a little boy. But there are some men that have abandoned their sons. And they abandon their sons reckless. And sometimes it's women getting with men that abandon their sons, sadly. And I've always said, guys, it would have been the highest honor to have had a son. But I don't understand why some men get trusted with sons and some don't. It's unfortunate.
I go pro. Other than that, it really wouldn't matter to me. Just as long as I had my college degree to show to my mom that, I went to college, and I was able to succeed in life.
The jerseys hanging from Rodney Rogers' ceiling tell a story. There's the Durham Hillside Blue from his high school days.
They gave me the name, the Durham Bull.
Call him the Durham Bull. Rodney Rogers was the Durham Bull. He was the man back in the day. Rodney Rogers was one of the nastiest basketball players coming out of high school. And Rodney Rogers actually played with Trelawney Owens. I played against Trelawney Owens. I'm at Prep Stars in Charlotte. I went to basketball camp called Prep Stars.
Well, that's my hometown. That's where my roots started.
From there, the Bull traded in that blue for the Wake Forest Old Gold and Black.
I used to love to come back home and play against Duke. Go to Chapel Hill, play against Carolina, and try to let them know I show them that.
And back then, it still is, we call it Tobacco Road. Some of the best basketball in the country came out of North Carolina. With my alma mater in USC Chapel Hill, Wake Forest, with Rodney Rogers and Randolph Childress, NC State, and Duke. It was called Tobacco Road. There was no basketball in the 90s that was good as ACC basketball, besides the Big East. Some of the best basketball came out of the ACC, and still is, and Duke and Carolina being the two premier programs.
Since they recruited over me, I'm sure what they missed out on.
That's exactly what he did. Rogers spent 3 seasons at Wake Forest. He won ACC Rookie of the Year, ACC Player of the Year, and earned all ACC and All-American honors. He left with his number 54 jersey retired in the rafters. Then, the NBA came calling. The Denver Nuggets selected him 9th overall in 1993. He played for 6 other teams, won 6th Man of the Year, and played in the NBA Finals before retiring in 2005. But turns out, that was just the beginning of his story. It's a story his jerseys can't tell. Forever a Durham boy, Rogers went back home to work for the city that raised him.
So once again, guys, I'm going to show you Rodney Rogers in his rarefied form when he played at Hillside. Let me show you. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. All right, here we go. This is him in high school. Look at this phenomenal athlete, built like a football player. Phenomenal athlete. That was Rodney Rogers at Hillside High School. He was actually playing in North Carolina Central Gymnasium. That's why I played. That's why I went to college at. Somebody said earlier, I do agree. If Lynn Bias had lived, Lynn Bias probably would have been the next Michael Jordan. Lynn Bias was bad, man. Someday, if Lynn Bias had lived, he would have been better than George. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. Lynn Bias was bad. I cried like a baby when Lynn Bias passed, guys. Lynn Bias was one of the nastiest basketball players in the country at the time, like in high school.
Get rid of those eights, says Rogers. There he is at the 360 in the air. Talk about balance and agility and concentration.
How many of y'all remember Gen X basketball back in the day? And how much more powerful it was back in the day? How many of y'all remember?
Learn some more stuff.
I remember Gen X basketball back in the day, how powerful it was, and how mentally tough that generation of men were. How many of you guys remember? If you remember, hit one. If you remember, hit one.
But then everything changed on a dirt bike ride in 2008.
It was the day after Thanksgiving.
He wanted to go ride, and I tried to convince him.
If you think about Rodney Rogers' wife, she was a true ride or die. She was imprinted by her husband. And this woman, to this day, as far as I know, is still by Rodney Rogers' side. She was a true ride or die.
Not to go because we had already had plans.
Some still kept telling me, don't ride, just don't ride. I wouldn't ride anyway.
She told him not to ride, but he rolled anyway. He ended up breaking his neck. Imagine if Rodney had to listen to his wife in that situation or scenario. Imagine if he had to listen to her.
Rogers raced his friend down a familiar hill in Vance County.
When I raced him, I split to the left, he went to the right.
But this time, something was different.
All of a sudden, I seen a ditch I ain't never seen before. I was flipping over, and next thing I knew, I couldn't move that.
How many of you guys think y'all could have dealt with the pain of not only losing your motion, but being a giant of a basketball player, to breaking his neck, to losing everything? How many of you guys think y'all could have went through what this brother went through and still stood strong? Because a lot of people could not have went through it. A lot of people could not have went through it.
It's gonna make me cry. I hate thinking about it, but he asked me, don't be upset, and that he.
That's why I always tell guys, sometimes mothers and women can feel the world. Women tend to feel the world, but fathers can project the world. Fathers can see things above the horizon sometimes that the women and their daughters and sons can't see. But sometimes women can feel things that the husband might can't see. And sometimes because of his ego, if he's not careful, he can sabotage the situation. I'll give you an example. My mother, before she died, used to tell my dad, she would tell my dad not to go to work. My dad wouldn't listen. Every time my mom told me my dad not to go to work, and she said something's going to happen, something will happen. And that's what happened to my dad a lot of times. But sometimes that can happen to men as well. If you got a good wife and she can feel the world, sometimes it's wise to listen and not let your ego get in the way. Sometimes men's greatest issues is their ego, whereas sometimes a woman's biggest issue is her emotions and feelings. And that's why there must be balance between the two.
Messed up.
He was paralyzed from his shoulders down. Doctors gave Rogers a 5% chance of ever walking again. And from that moment, he faced a challenge he'd never seen on any basketball court.
I never wanted to go outside. I didn't want nobody to see me in a wheelchair.
When a man loses his pride, man, this man went through what's called a mental health crisis. He was literally going through a mental health crisis in this scenario, in this situation. That's a mental health crisis.
The first year, we stayed in the room with the blinds closed.
You know, I can't take care of my wife like I want to. I can't hold her in my arms. I can't, hold her hand and stuff like that. And sometimes it make you feel less than a man.
We was at the point where we both contemplated suicide.
But then love took over. Rodney and Faye got married in 2010, 2 years after the accident.
And my wife said, it is what it is. We just gotta, stay strong and just keep fighting and fighting.
Yes, we have challenges, but we're gonna get through the challenge, and that's it. I think that's why I'm here. I'm here. I think God put me here for this, and to help you get through, and you help me get through.
And as their 9th anniversary approaches, they continue to fight through life's challenges together.
Every day I'm wild. I'm wild that my husband is still living and my husband is healthy and my husband has a quality life.
So maybe his story isn't best told by hanging jerseys or highlights, but instead photos like this. Because this is a story of perseverance, strength, and love. And when given the choice between that and basketball,
rather known as a good person with a good heart, also as a pretty good basketball player.
Old-fashioned, right, Barry Hamilton? Old-fashioned.
All right, guys, we'll bring it to you live once again from the...
All right, guys, so I'm going to show you guys. So this is my homeboy. We played high school ball together back in the day, back in the 90s. And my man was in the ECU Hall of Fame. Hold on for a minute. As you guys know, I grew up in the country, had a chance to play Division 1 and 2 basketball. But I never did because I never really got the support, man. So I just never did it. But let me see if I can find this. See if I can find this background. But anyway, this guy and I play high school ball together. He was one of the best coming out of high school. Our high school that year was 2 games away from going to the state championship. Made the ECU Hall of Fame. 182,000 games, I believe. 6'3". 6'3". Hold tight. And he dropped 29 on Dean Smith. I think it was 29 or 26. Hold on a minute. But we used to hoop together. I went to a couple of basketball camps back in the day. But let me bring him up. And y'all see what Gen X ball was like back in the day. Tar Heel State, the greatest state in the Union, North Carolina. We got one of the old-time throwback classes right here. My man Lester Lyons. We played high school ball together to an undisclosed location school. But one of the things, guys, we reflect on is men and male empowerment. We reflect on the struggles that men have, but also how the world has changed radically. Les, I want to ask you a question. You played at East Carolina. You made the ECU Hall of Fame. You were the second all-time leading scorer in East Carolina history. That's one facet. But when you talk about like dating and relationships, what is the biggest thing you see in modern women now compared to women, say, when you and I were with school maybe 20 to 30 years ago? What's the difference in your opinion? Major difference.
To me, the major difference is women are more independent now than they were back then. You know, they have their own job, their own house, their own car. They're not dependent on men as would have been back in the 90s. So I think that's the major difference. And then, you know, the outcoming of the women are coming out now. They're more empowered than they used to be back then.
But that empowerment comes with a price, in my opinion, at the detriment of men. When you think about old school traditionalism, you think about your grandmom, you think about your great grandmom. You know, a lot of times black men are always colored in the color purple narrative. They always paint black men as being abusers and aggressors, and we know that happened. But you know, if granddaddy was cheating, he was cheating with somebody, and sometimes that somebody was married too. But when you think about the entitlements, even though a lot of women now say they are strong and independent, if you had to get married again, and you and I were in high school together, what would you look for in a wife if you had to do it all over again?
Well, I would look for a virtuous woman.
He's a virtuous woman. What does that look like? What does that mean?
Know, as like they say in the Bible, you know.
Yes, sir. Right.
A man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Especially if that's a God-fearing woman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love that. Right.
That has goals and understands where she wants to go in life, and knows her focus and what she's focused on.
Right.
That's what I would look for.
That's what you look for. Do you feel like modern women now respect their husbands and respect male leadership? And if not, tell me why, in your opinion.
Well, I feel like there are some that do, but like I said, the women are being so much more empowered now and so independent.
So let me show you guys something real quick. Me and this cat play ball together. Let me show you guys something real quick. We'll show y'all a video.
Now that they don't have to respect a man as they would traditionally in the older days. You know, it's the times do change.
Right.
And you got to find good people.
Right.
No matter what situation you're in. I find myself in a situation where I'm just looking for a good person.
And you see how people mindset changes, guys, as they get older. The things that the guys thought they maybe would have wanted. I think men and women both change as they get older. But let me show you something. This is him when he played against Carolina. Him and I played high school ball together once again, if you guys are listening. And we dropped 27 on Dean Smith back in 1993. That's him that just shot the ball, number 5.
East Carolina hung close for most of the first half.
That's it. That's my man right there. He dropped 27 on ECU, and Dean Smith asked the question, why didn't we recruit him? You understand, a lot of kids, when we went to school back then, there were a lot of talented kids in the country, but we just didn't get no exposure. We didn't have AAU camps and all that. But he dropped 23 on Dean Smith, and Carolina asked, why didn't we recruit him? He was nasty, man. Like I said, man, we were 2 games away from going to the state championship.
Utilizing its superior size, though, North Carolina pounded away inside on the overmatched Pirates and began to take control. Eric Montross dropped in 17 points and grabbed 8 rebounds to lead the way. Early in the second half, the Tar Heels opened up a 20-point lead and cruised to an 85-65 win.
I thought we played very well offensively, and I thought it was very hard to chase them defensively.
We knew they were going to jam it inside, and they did. I think we were disappointed. I think that we got stretched out defensively and allowed them to get it inside a little easier than we had wanted.
Eddie Payne's Pirates end their season with a 13-17 mark. Carolina now must turn its attention to Rhode Island. The Rams beat Purdue to advance.
Coming into the tournament, it was like people thought it was a fluke right here. Then.
So that was him back in the 90s, guys, playing the East Carolina, my homeboy. He played the ECU, but they had us back.
I would argue, and I like what you said, because what you say is very profound. But I tell men all the time that you got to demand respect in a relationship. If you're going to be a good man and provider and protector, you got a right to demand things, just like she got a right to demand things. But what I see now, Lester, a lot of times in relationships is one-sided, where the woman is telling men what she wants, but when it comes down to the man needs, it's minimized. I'll give you an example. If you look at Father's Day, fathers are minimized on Father's Day, but when it comes down to Mother's Day, mothers are granddads. They're put on pedestals. And if you look at through the lens of theology never told us to honor that mother and that father. It said honor the father and the mother. But we minimize men a lot of times. We minimize masculinity, and we paint men in a negative framework, in my opinion, that's not conducive to building empowerment and also communities long term. And so I believe, Lester, in relationships, it got to be equivocable, where the man and the woman both benefit. I don't believe in no happy wife, happy life. I don't believe in that nonsense. Right. In a marriage, we both gonna benefit. And so when you think about girls from the 90s, now, Lester, you know, a lot of chicks now, they all got the hair installations and the baby hair on their head. What do you remember? What do you remember about girls from the 90s?
You understand, guys? You know, me and Lester, we're from the 90s. A lot of guys from the 90s. We remember women were different in the 90s. They weren't perfect, but they were a lot different.
90s, as far as style, class, personification. How did Gen X women stand out, in your opinion, when it came down to class and personification? In your opinion?
Well, back then we had the B girls.
What's a B girl?
Those were the break dancing girls.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so everybody moved from the 80s to the 90s to that generation, and a lot of women stood out then because of the way their hair were done.
Right.
The bamboo earrings.
These
two pair.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it was that era, and you know, it was the coming out of hip hop.
Right.
And we had ways to express ourselves then, more so than these kids do now, because now they just got everything is so fast. It's so fast. Social media. You got the Instagrams and the Facebooks, but back then we didn't have none of that.
Right.
And you had to be seen or be out. And I think, you know, that the style from then has advanced so much now that, you know, these kids are way too fast.
I think one of the gross differences, Lester, that we see now and kids versus, you know, when women came out of the house when we were teenagers growing up, they came out with dignity and class.
Right.
Most chicks didn't come out of the house with no bonnets, no pajamas on. And seeing like around COVID, it's like things took a turn for the worse. In your opinion, why is feminine decorum so important? Why do you think women should comport themselves in a manner that would be pleasing to a man that's seeking to put a ring on their finger? Because a lot of chicks now just think by default, you know, they can look any way they want to look and still deserve to get top tier men.
Well, you know, the thing goes is that you got to respect yourself first before you get some respect from somebody else.
Right.
You know, and for these young women, they are so objectified. You know, it's everything is out. They're showing their lives on Instagram, Facebook, and the social media platforms, and you see what everybody else is doing, and it's a keep up with the Joneses thing going on.
Right.
Everybody's trying to keep up with everybody else or outdo everybody.
Right.
And, you know, and I think that's a big problem that we have with these younger women today.
Do you think the older women are teaching the younger women how to be wise, or do you think it's a lost art? When you think about your grandmom, you know, your great-grandmom, you and I are married to family. My uncle married your aunt. But when you think about how your grandmama raised your aunt and your mom, and when you think about women from the old school, what is the biggest difference, like what those women taught those women of that generation compared to now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that back then you had the elders would pass it down to the next generation of women. And now I think that is missing because now the grandma is only 30 years old. You know, so.
He said the grandma I'm 30. It's true.
Right.
It's true. It's true.
So it's like I said, it's keeping up with the times, and the times are a lot faster now.
Right.
You know, kids are having kids now, and there is no big mama no more.
Right.
In the family unit.
Right.
There's nobody to pass nothing down, because the grandma and daughter and grandbaby all in the same generation.
And guys, that's why we're so passionate about these conversations when it comes down to male empowerment. Once again, my channel is about male empowerment and empowering men and calling out some of the modern trends and using clinical concepts to convey a message when it comes down to modern day relationship, also faith. And like I said, it's a problem. It's a serious problem. It was said that let me see. He said the women in the 90s were sophisticated. They wore short, elegant Lita Baker style bobs. Yes, they did, man. They were elegant, and they were a lot better, guys. Do me a favor, share the stream, guys. Hit the like button. Get the likes up. We're not gonna be here long, guys, but I definitely want to do this show for you guys, man. I've been extremely busy, and I'm actually out of the state right now. But hold tight. Get the likes up, guys, and show some love. Yeah, I appreciate that, Barry Hamilton. He said, Edward, praise you for being one of the few black male therapists in this space. And he did hint at doing an interview with you at the Coaching Commission, no doubt. I'd love to do it with him, man. You know, it is rare to have a black male clinician from a traditional black male perspective or a traditional male perspective. I fully and solely believe in male empowerment. I don't believe you can have a thriving black community without the advocacy of black men and also supporting black boys. But unfortunately, the current world that we live in, the current milieu that we live in, is under a spirit that's a very pernicious spirit. And that spirit is the spirit of Jezebel. And that spirit has cascaded and caused a lot of cascading to the point where a lot of men have lost their sovereignty in relationships. And they have lost their masculine adherence to God's standards because they're out of order, they're out of place, because they allow the manipulation. And it's unfortunate. I see it all the time, guys, sadly, in therapy. Right. And, you know, when you and I were kids back in the 90s, man, you know, teen pregnancy was bad, but having kids out of wedlock was a stigma. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It was a stigma.
Yes.
And so if a woman had multiple kids, most women won't demand that a man got to make six figures, he got to be tall. You got chicks now that there's been what we call back in the day ran through, got multiple kids by multiple men, and they got these extraneous demands. What would you tell the young OGs, the young cats, man, about having masculine standards and keeping their standards high if they've done the work? We're not talking about dusty dudes, but we're talking about brothers that have done the work, they went to school, they study hard like yourself. What would you tell your sons, if you had sons, about maintaining standards when it comes down to dating, marriage, and relationships?
Right, you gotta hold true to your upbringing, who you are, and what you believe in. Don't let anybody sway you, especially a woman, from your goals in life, because you can get sidetracked easily and end up.
Did you hear what he said? Now unfortunately, Lester's divorced, but you can get sidetracked. Look at all the men that have lost out, sadly, in their lives because they got with women that weren't best for them, or women that helped build their purpose and build their mission. And that happens a lot. That's why you need the tutelage and you need the guidance of older men that can be mentors to some of the younger men. The problem with a lot of folks now, the scripture said that no man live unto an island unto himself. And the scripture also said that in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And so when you're in the multitude of counselors, it brings forth safety, not only to you, but also to your community, your family, and those around you. Older men that are righteous men that are commissioned to sometimes galvanize and help younger men. Iron sharpens iron, according to the scripture. And so it's important to help other men mentoring younger men. But sadly, we don't have that as much in our community or in communities in general, because anytime masculine men speak out, people try to shame them back into silence. And so many just don't have the intestinal fortitude, or they don't want to deal with the headache, so they just stay quiet.
With her and end up with nothing. So I don't let nobody distract me, and I teach mine not to get distracted by others.
Right.
If they don't fit into your goals and your plans, they're not for you.
Let's go back in time, man. When you think about the 90s, man, what do you miss the most about the 90s? You and I graduated back in 1990. We were part of one of the best state high school basketball teams in the state at that time, 2 games away from going to the state championship. You were recruited by East Carolina. You was recruited by State. And then also you said Duke. Who recruited you also?
At that time, Virginia Commonwealth, Stanford.
Oh, Stanford. I didn't know Stanford.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't want to go out west.
Right.
I wanted to keep it in the East. And after the verbally committing to State, I changed my mind and decided to go to East Carolina.
East Carolina, right.
But yeah, during that time, man, in the 90s, man, things were a lot more easy going than it is today.
Right.
You know, now it's the everyday hustle and bustle. Even small towns move like big cities nowadays. And you know, it was just a lot easier time, a lot more chill time. You had time to think, time to organize goals and focus on them. But now it's not. You know, you got to get ready to go to work. You got to get ready to go to school. It's always something going on right now. And these days, in time, it's just moving a lot faster than it did back then.
Right. What do you miss the most minus that? Like when it come down to relationships, when it come down to community, when it come down to family, when it come down to music, when it come down to sports. What's the most pressing thing you miss from the 90s? In the 90s, we had Michael Jordan. We had some of the best music. Gospel music was good. Secular artists were excellent. What do you miss from the 90s, man?
Our time, man, we had actual people to look up to. You know, you had role models. Now there are no role models.
No role models, right.
And
he's right. We did have role models back in the 90s. We did have people to look up to, whether it was in faith, whether it was sports, whether it was just things in general. We had people to look up to.
Role models anymore. I missed it. I mean, because if I wanted to be a basketball player, I could pattern myself after so many different players, like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. I mean, and then if I wanted to sing, there were artists that could actually sing that didn't have to make studio records.
Right.
They could just pick up a microphone and sing. There was talent and the role models that we could look up to.
Right.
Now we don't have that anymore. We don't have that.
You know, you went to East Carolina, ECU Hall of Fame, but before you took that adventurous turn in your life, we played high school ball. What do you remember about high school basketball in the 90s compared to now? That's number one. And then number two, we'll talk about your time in East Carolina and also coaching back at your alma mater. But what do you remember about high school basketball when you and I played compared to now? You know, we played some heavy hitters. You know, we were up there with some of the big dogs coming out of high school back then. Walter Rasdell for the Washington Pan Pack. You know, what's the guy named that played the Wilson fight? Jamie Watson. But what do you remember about basketball in the 90s from high school compared to now?
Well, it was just like I said, it was a different time, man. The game was a lot slower. You know, we played with post. We had, you know, it was a more physical game. These kids now, they're smart, but they're soft as I don't know what.
They're soft, right. Yes.
Yeah, it was just a
generation now is very soft. Don't fight through adversity. As soon as they go do something, they quit. Gen X, I just proved it to you with Rodney Rogers. We got it from the mud. You know, I was from the generation where you had to prove something. We lived to prove what our worth was. We never quit. We kept grinding. Let me tell you guys, I don't know how long, if you guys know the struggle and the stress it took me to become the man that I am. It took years of hard work. It took years of stress. It took years of studying. I went from getting my degree in law enforcement to going back to North Carolina Central, getting my degree in social work, to going back to Central, getting my license to teach school. And under pressure, dealing with stress, dealing with people projecting their insecurities onto me, and then going to one of the top schools in the nation, in the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And now with God's grace, having my own practice. I have my own practice because I put in work and I'm not a quitter. But this generation now don't fight, do adversity. As soon as something go wrong, they quit. And that's the difference.
Different game, man. You know, you could hand check. It was physical. And they don't have that in the game now. There's no physicality in the game now. They've taken basically all of that out.
Do you think kids now are too entitled? That's number one. And what's your take on the NIL and NIL deals? Do you think that the NIL is hurting the game? Even though we know that, I don't have an issue with players, making money, but do you think the NIL has hurt collegiate basketball? And then also, we'll talk about, reflect on your time in East Carolina.
Yeah, I think that the NIL deal is great for kids, to have the opportunity to make money. But yeah, it's affecting the game because it's not an amateur sport anymore. College basketball was based on being an amateur sport, which now everybody's getting paid, so you really can't say that. You don't have kids getting drafted straight out of high school to go play college basketball anymore. Right. Because they're going to get paid, and you got to be experienced at handling money and experienced at playing basketball, because coaches want to win right away, and they can pay to do that now. And they're going out and getting older kids, more experienced kids that's played JUCO already, kids that's played college already, and the portal is increasing every year. There's probably more kids in the portal now that's on scholarship. Right. ECU All-American, man. You and I played high school ball. First of all, what do you remember about me in high school, man? You and I played in high school. We used to cut it up, man. What do you remember about me in school, man? Man, I remember you being a tough competitor, man.
Right.
Always battling down there with the big guys.
With the big guys, right.
Yeah, fighting for spots, fighting for a time, and proving to coach that you could do, that you had skills and everything. And, it's kind of what kind of pushed us, because our teams were so competitive against each other.
Yes, sir.
Against each other. So, we were always good when we played together.
Yes, sir. No doubt. I appreciate that. ECU All-American, second time all leading scorer in East Carolina history. You made the ECU Hall of Fame, Lester Lyons. What were some of your momentous occasions in playing basketball at East Carolina? I remember meeting you when I was at Pitt, and I went on the campus. You and I chopped it up, man. This brother, guys, was on the billboard at East Carolina back in the 90s. I remember Lester was electrifying. And what do you remember about East Carolina, man, your time in East Carolina, and your most momentous occasion playing basketball at ECU, being the high school All-American? What do you remember about your time in East Carolina?
Well, that was a good time in my life. It was a great experience to be able to.
And guys, back in the day, back in the 90s, we had a show called Scholastic Sports America. I think the guy's last name was Fowler or something. I can't remember. But we had a show called Scholastic Sports America. And we had a lot of guys from my high school at the time on that show.
Go to a school like East Carolina, Division I, and get on the court and play at an early age as a freshman start. And I was able to have a great career, becoming the second all-time leading scorer, being put in the Hall of Fame. But one of the things I remember the most was that the CAA tournament, when we made the run to win that tournament and make the NCAA tournament and get a chance to play our Carolina Tar.
The flagship, yeah. You see, y'all see about that's my alma mater, man. But he dropped 29 on Dean Smith. But go ahead.
Yeah, but so that was definitely one of the most highlighting experiences of my career.
Shout out to my man, the International Quiet Storm in the house. Shout out to him. He said, I remember watching him when he was drafted by Denver, and he was on the Clippers. Yeah. His name was Rodney Rogers. We call him T-Top. And T-Top, Quiet Storm was we call him the Bull of Durham. And he was one of the most dominant 6 men in the country coming out of high school, man. And the guy Top, that's my classmate all together. Now, actually with and he was a true too. Played at East Carolina, dropped 27 on Carolina back in '93.
That 3-day
very impressive.
That 3-day run in the CAA tournament and the game in Winston-Salem at Lawrence Joel Coliseum versus North Carolina in 1993, the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Yes, sir.
We played the eventual champion.
Right.
Carolina did go on to win it that year.
Right. Now, my homeboy, shout out to my man Roger Ingram. He played basketball at Seton Hall. I think he played with Danny Hurley. And so Lester, you played against Bobby Hurley. I want you to tell the cats, man, what you did to Bobby Hurley. Tell them what you did to them ACC schools, man. Because folks don't realize back then there were a lot of talented kids, man, that played ball. They just didn't get the opportunity to show their talents and their skill. As I told Lester and a couple of kids, you know, I played at Berkeley. I didn't get a lot of burn, but when I went to prep stars, they had about 8 schools recruiting me, man. But do you think a lot of those ACC teams were great, but do you think they were overhyped? What made you stand out? Do you think you took that same competitive attitude that we had in high school to some of the tougher kids? Because I did it when I played against Trelawney Owens and Kevin Armstrong, some of them cats. What made you stand out, man, coming from a rural county high school to dealing with some of the quote-unquote elites of the ACC?
Well, one thing was, people didn't know me, they didn't know where I was from. And that was kind of always a little chip on my shoulders to let them know about this kid from Bertie.
No doubt,
Nobody, I bet you know where Bertie is at the end of the night.
That Bertie blue.
Right. You're going to understand where I come from at the end of the night. And that was always my thing, was leave an impression on people and kind of let them know they're awesome.
So when we played ball, guys, we had something to prove. We're from that generation where not only we applied pressure, we ball it. We had something to prove. We were country boys, so we had something to prove. We had something to prove. You ain't never sleep on the big blue back in the day because you was prone for an upset. We were talented, man. We were talented kids, man. We were world changers.
Good athletes in places like rural eastern North Carolina.
Yes, right.
Like where we come from.
Right.
And the only way you can do that a lot of times is to leave your mark by your play.
Right.
So, I mean, I averaged 3 years in a row playing Duke. I played them 3 out of my 4 years at ECU.
Mm-hmm.
I averaged 26 or 27 points a game against ACC competition.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Even the 93 game against Carolina where I had 28 or 20.
But Dean Smith gave you love. I never forget it. Dean Smith, if I can find the clip, I'll find it. He said he was one of the most, Dean Smith said you were one of the most impressive players he ever seen. He shouted you out. I'll never forget it, man.
Yeah, I think he asked Phil Ford after the game that night, why didn't we recruit that guy?
Right. I believe that, man. Yeah, man, you were nasty. And you know the thing I loved about you? You were fearless. You never played down to the competition. A lot of cats now play to the competition. You didn't. You would play up to the competition. You would dominate teams, but you would definitely play up to the competition, man, because you had something to prove, man. When you think about nutrition and coaching and cats being the size of cats now, do you think cats now are bigger and more better fundamentally sound, or do you think we were better fundamentally sound back in the day?
No, I think fundamentally the old days, the way the game was taught, man, it was a testament to how we learned how to play.
Right.
I think now the kids, they just have so much at their exposure that even kids got personal trainers now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they get to work out one-on-one. I never had a one-on-one basketball workout while I was growing up.
Right. None of us did.
Not a paid professional training in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand that they just have access to way more stuff than we had back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the fundamental skills, we worked on those every day.
Mm-hmm.
Kids now, they just come and play AAU, they just play games. And they get better with game experience, but they don't get better fundamentally.
So fundamentally, you're talking about like shooting free throws, understanding the zone setups. Yeah. What do you mean by that? Fundamentals.
The basic fundamental skills, passing, dribbling, shooting, how to cut, how to post up, how to box out. Kids don't have those basic fundamental skills, and they're not doing it at a high level. I mean, of course, you know how to pass, you know how to dribble, you know how to shoot, but you don't know when to use it and how to use it at a higher level. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Before I let you go, man, 35 years later, man, God has been good to you. Some of our classmates are dead and gone. But when you look at the current world that we live in, man, what is your biggest fear about what I call the destruction of the black community and also the evolution of family, man? What is your biggest fear and your biggest concern as we continue to erode compared to when you and I grew up, where we had community, family, and faith? What is your biggest fear, man?
Yeah, I think that we got to watch what we eat, our community is being taken out, you got to be careful around the judicial system. The police are killing brothers left and right. I think that you just need to be safe, and you need to keep it within your own community. I mean, we need to go back to the family unit, and the neighboring and the close knit community. I remember when my neighbor used to have a cookout, and we would all
Right. Them days gone.
Those days are over, man.
They're over,
when it takes, the village to raise a kid, we need to have everybody come together,
coming back together,
right? And
No
stay
doubt.
strong that way.
Let me tell you something, guys. I'm proud to say I grew up in Gen X. I don't grown up Gen X. I'm X proud. I'm forever. Different times, man. Gen X was normal. We had a little school and new school. I could argue that X is part of feminist issues that we have now. We're strong, guys. No doubt. Well, listen, guys, this has been a Gen X Nexus moment. I got my man Lester Lyman in the house. We played high school ball together, man. And Lester, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you being so free and calm with your time, man, to go back into the past and explore some of the dynamics of the 90s. We know that the 90s ain't never coming back. We're in some dark times, in my opinion, but God is faithful and God is good, man. Thank you for your time, brother. Be good.
Thank you, bro.
All right. All right, guys, that was my man Lester from High School All-American. We did it big back in the day, 2 games away from the state championship. And that was him. But anyway, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you to Barry Hamilton for a $5 super sticker. If anybody else want to donate. Also, thank you to my man, St. James. Guys, I've been extremely busy. I'm going to get this content thing popping at some point. But I've been extremely busy. Y'all know my mom died recently. I'm just trying to find my place back in this content thing. Content creation is extremely daunting and taxing. But I try to bring hope and give courage to men. And like I said, guys, creating male content, you ain't gonna make no money unless you compromise. So, but anyway, thank you, guys. Thank you to my brother Barry Hamilton. Also, thank you to my man St. James for showing love with that $20 cash out. As Brother St. James was the #1 sponsor stream. Guys, we're gonna end it here. Showing some love from the West Coast. I'll see you guys soon. Y'all take care. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Be well. See, I'm gonna go live with this tax write-off stuff. But I do this on my YouTube channel. Tax write-off. You see my point?
Yeah, I was looking at the Laguna Beach. They're talking about it's the most expensive area, Orange County. Talking about how high the rents are, $3,000
for a scoot. Almost 3,000 for one bedroom.
That's crazy.
2,000 for a studio. You're talking about houses are up with as high as 10 million nowadays.